Greetings and salutations, loyal viewers of this channel. My name is Sean, and today I want to talk about this back and forth that Kasparian had with Cenk Uygur that went viral a little while ago about the Second Amendment, about using firearms for self-defense, because I think it is quite instructive both on how Cenk Uygur tends to strawman everybody that he disagrees with, and on the evolution of Kasparian, even though I don't actually like the specific points she made in her argument in this particular segment. Now, we're going to get into this, but before we do, I want to thank everybody who supports this channel via actualjusticewarrior.com/join.
Give me the money. Give me the money. Okay.
So this segment came up in the context of the broader topic of the recent shooting that happened in the Georgia school, and I just want you to know what kind of mood Cenk was in terms of strawmanning in order to kick this thing off, and that is him saying that people on the Republican side would have been against arresting this kid when he made the initial threats almost a year prior to this actual incident.
When we go to enforce the laws, the right wing loses their mind. So if we had arrested that kid before he did the shooting, or his dad, they would have been the biggest heroes in America for the right wing. So what is, guys, the AR-15s are weapons of war. Just because you want to shoot Bud Light cans with them doesn't mean that our kids should be slaughtered for your dumbass hobby.
Now look, I know Cenk is kind of a bit crazy when it comes to this topic, but no, not really, not even close. And in fact, the only notable case where I could remember there being outrage over a 13-year-old, which this kid was 14 when he committed the crime, but I believe he was 13 when he made the initial threats, being arrested for making threats, was when the 13-year-old was actually the child of Rebecca Jones, the phony, fraudulent whistleblower, and she claimed it was political targeting. All of these different left-wingers freaked out, even though the Florida police in that particular scenario had learned lessons from previous incidents that happened in their state and acted precisely and smartly in order to prevent and target somebody who was making a terroristic threat. So the fact is, nobody was outraged by this on the right-wing side. The only people that were outraged were people on the left-wing side, and many a left-winger still don't realize that that is the reason why Rebecca Jones's son was arrested, and it has nothing to do with her phony whistleblowing against the DeSantis administration. So already, Cenk, you're strawmanning.
There's no reason to have them. None. Zero. And I, said on social media today, look, if the right wing wants to have fun shooting RPGs in the woods, are we going to give them shoulder-fired missiles and allow that? And almost all the right wingers are like, oh, that's a really good idea. I love that idea. And then, of course, when they come in with RPGs and murder our kids in schools, they'll say, oh, it had nothing to do with it. It had nothing to do with the shoulder-fired missiles. Yeah, it has everything to do with assault weapons that kill and murder people much, much, much easier.
So Cenk then says there's no reason to have an AR-15, they're designed to kill people, weapons of war, and all the familiar talking points that you guys have likely heard way too much. But the fact of the matter is, an AR-15 is just a modern sporting rifle. Rifles total in the United States of America only result in about 2% of the gun homicides that we see, and it's actually, as somebody who's not very familiar with guns, but has been to a shooting range, very easy to work with, very easy to utilize, and if you were an inexperienced person looking for something to defend your home, I would actually recommend this, again, based on my limited experience. So yeah, there are a bunch of reasons why you would want to own an AR-15, and shooting Bud Light cans has nothing to do with it. And of course, I will point out that Cenk is describing them or using the accent of hillbillies, because you have to be a hillbilly to want to defend your home from a potential intruder, because how dare you? You're absolutely disgusting. You should just let the criminals attack you.
That same 14-year-old, how many people was he going to strangle to death? How many people was he going to kill with a knife instead? It wasn't going to be 4 and injuring 9. It wasn't. Those weapons make it infinitely easier. They have no use at all in civilized society. And the Second Amendment has nothing to do with it.
Look, I'm not going to make the argument that this 14-year-old was going to strangle people or knife people. I mean, if he had a pistol, he probably could have been just as effective, just as dangerous. We've seen mass shootings with pistols, but that is neither here nor there. The point being is that, yeah, they do have uses in civilized society, and one of the most obvious ones is basic home defense, an easy-to-operate weapon that you could utilize against an attacker is something that you might want to have in case somebody breaks into your home and tries to attack you.
I know. The right wing will never agree. My hobby is more important than your kids' lives. I got it. But you're never going to solve this. And the people say, oh, mental health problems. Every country has mental health problems. Literally, there's no country where they're like, oh, there's no mental health issue at all. Except unlike us, they don't come and go, oh, you got a mental health problem. Here's an AR-15. Here's an AR-15, right? So that's the reality of it. If you have more guns, you have more homicides, more suicides. These are all stone cold facts. It's not even close to in dispute. When you say that I want my guns and my AR-15s and my assault weapons, you're saying I value them more than I value your kids.
So Cenk then goes to say, listen, a bunch of other places have mental health issues, but they don't have the mass shooting numbers. And I'm not even going to get into the per capita mass shootings in other places because that is really not all that important. But then he alleges that if you have more guns, you have more homicides and suicides, which is just not true. Korea, very much gun restrictive, a higher suicide rate than the United States of America. The United States of America has the most guns compared to population of any country on earth, and they are not, in fact, the highest homicide rate country compared to any population on earth. So Cenk says this is a stone cold fact. It is quite literally the most easily debunkable statement that he brought up in this whole conversation. But again, this isn't about Cenk being an absolute doofus, not 100%. This is about Anna responding to Cenk's nonsense.
So I agree that other countries also have issues with mental health. I think the US is pretty unique in being a developed country that whenever there is a mass shooting, we'll pay lip service to how we need to do something about mental health, but we don't do anything about mental health. In LA, we literally have people who should be in a mental health facility wandering the streets, wasting away. Sometimes they're having episodes which causes them to do violent things. We don't care about mental health in this country at all, and we don't do anything about mental health in this country at all. Let's keep it real.
Now, of course, Anna actually genuinely brings up a solid point about mental health issues, which is the fact that we have people who should be in asylums, who should be in facilities, who should be, by the way, forced into asylums and or facilities that are just wandering the streets. And this is largely due to the fact that we changed the standard from can't take care of yourself to a danger to yourself and or others, which usually only presents itself after somebody already commits a crime and already attacks somebody. On top of that, the attack has to be incredibly severe, because how many times do we see somebody who's mentally disturbed finally commit a murder and they were living on the streets, and then we look at their arrest history and they committed assault after assault after assault. This is a huge problem in the city of New York, where we have bail reform that guarantees a lot of these people a same-day automatic release, and they just continually reoffend, and we pretend like there's just no way we could have seen this. There's nothing we could have done, even though you had multiple different points where you could have intervened before things got serious, but they refused to do so.
The other thing that I'll say, Cenk, is, okay, so what is your solution to this? Like, ideally, okay, you get to snap your finger, you get everything you want on this issue. What would you want to do?
Yeah, first of all, one part of it is super easy. Ban assault weapons.
So Anna asked Cenk what is his solution in his ideal world, and Cenk says ban assault weapons. Now, I want to point out for everybody out there in the audience that Cenk's actual solution, and he said this before, is to ban all guns. He's screamed into the camera many a time, take the guns away, take all the guns away.
Take the guns away! You want to, oh, no, Second Amendment. A well-regulated militia. What part of this is a well-regulated militia? This is not a fucking well-regulated militia. This is just mass shooting after mass shooting. That's what this is. This is not a well-regulated militia. This is not what the Second Amendment is supposed to be about. What is this? It's just a bunch of guns. Over 250 million guns in the country. Of course we're all going to get shot up.
And honestly, if you're talking about homicides and suicides like Cenk brought up earlier, then rifles of any kind would be the last thing that you touch. Pistols are the weapon of choice most of the time. We're talking 95% of the time. But Cenk doesn't want to talk about that because the AR style rifle, the so-called assault rifle, which by the way is an ill-defined term, looks scary, and it's something that weirds people out. And you could say weapons of war, even though again, by the numbers, pistols are dramatically more dangerous in terms of the results. On top of that, again, an AR-15 is one of those ideal weapons to protect your home because it is easy to operate. If somebody comes in, you unload on them if they're ready to attack you. On top of that, one of the things that makes it statistically less dangerous than pistols is the fact that it's actually difficult to conceal by comparison to a pistol. So yeah, you're picking a gun that is more ideal for home defense and throwing it out based on the fact that you're a complete ignoramus and, of course, that you are in full denial of reality, you don't know the numbers, and you're just panicked about scary-looking gun.
There's no reason. You don't need assault weapons to protect your home. You don't need assault weapons to go hunting. The only reason to have assault weapons is shooting Bud Light cans because you're a moron who thinks you're going to murder cops and U.S. military in the woods when they come over with the tyranny of government, and to murder people. So there's no reason for it. So I would ban it, and it would save thousands of lives. Thousands! Because all these shootings, they might still happen with traditional weapons, rifles, handguns, etc., but a lot less people are gonna die.
I mean, Cenk has no evidence for this. One of the deadliest mass shootings in American history, I believe it's still the deadliest school shooting, is the Virginia Tech shooting, which was done with 2 pistols. So again, he's just wrong about this. People would just opt for a different weapon. Other rifles happen to be more powerful. Again, they might not look as scary as the modern sporting rifle, but the fact of the matter is, they are in fact just as dangerous, if not more dangerous in terms of firepower. I'm not exactly sure what Cenk is trying to grade this on. I mean, we have Glocks that are super cheap that people in the hood are modifying with switches that they get from China. They cost about $8 and they use them to fire fully automatic. We did a story about a police officer who was killed, and I believe he had something like 86 shots fired in his direction from a modified Glock handgun. So no, this is just incorrect. But okay, so ban the gun that's responsible for hundreds of murders, like around 200 murders for rifles total as a full category, and not the pistols that are, thousands of murders. Okay, and then what?
Okay, look, if I had it all the way, like, okay, this will never happen in America, but I would say you're allowed to own a gun, but you have to have it locked in a locker that is not in your house, that is in a facility somewhere else, okay?
I disagree.
Yeah, I know.
I disagree, Cenk.
I know. Okay.
So there we get to Cenk's big conclusion where he's like, okay, I mean, I guess you're allowed to have a gun, but it has to be locked away in a facility that is not in your own home. So now Cenk, who said that the AR is not useful for home defense, is now coming out and saying that he doesn't care whether it is or not. You're not allowed to defend your home with a firearm, which, by the way, is kind of crazy because the overwhelming majority of Americans actually believe in defending your house. They actually believe in the castle doctrine, and that is one of the reasons why castle doctrine laws exist in almost every state in the union.
Okay, but Cenk, okay, look, you and I have a lot of these private conversations. So let me just ask you publicly, okay? As a Californian, as an Angelino, you know full well that right now there is a huge problem with what Karen Bass, the mayor of LA, has dubbed crime tourism, where people are literally coming here from other countries, okay? They're flying here on short-term visas. They're committing crimes, including invading people's homes to rob them as they are in their homes, okay? And what are people supposed to do if there are people coming in fully armed, ready to rob them, threatening their lives? They're not allowed to have a weapon to defend themselves in their own home. They have to have it locked away in a lockbox in some other location. That makes no sense.
So Anna hits Cenk really hard right here. And while I do agree with her, I will say I wouldn't have even gotten to this level of specificity when it comes to the example that she brought up, because it's completely and totally unnecessary in every possible way. But I will explain that in a little bit once Cenk gives his response, which is, in an ideal world, the criminals will also lock up their guns in the gun locker, because we all know the people who will break into your home and kill you will definitely 100% follow that law.
No, Anna, it doesn't make sense, because We're already in an ocean of weapons. That's why my proposal I think is definitely the right one, but will never be implemented in America. So if we had implemented my proposal in the first place, we wouldn't be in an ocean of guns. So when you arrive from Venezuela, by the way, they're coming in through the airport, the criminal gangs wouldn't be like, here's a weapon, here's a weapon, here's a weapon. Everybody gets a weapon because there's like over 300 million guns in the country and nobody's doing anything about it. And if you arrested someone for having a weapon, the right wing takes your head off.
So Cenk says, oh yeah, when the Venezuelan gangs come in from the airport, by the way, they don't always fly in. In fact, they come in through the border, as a great number of them do. They wouldn't get weapons in his ideal magical thinking scenario. And I just want you to know that they should have done what Cenk said in the first place. I don't know when that point in time actually is, but it's definitely 100% the right solution. And to be clear, when your firearms are locked away in that locker and you can't have access to them on the fly, the whole point of that is to later ban them and you won't be able to do anything about them because you don't really own it. You can't keep it in your own home. It is not really your property. And that's what Cenk is actually about. Let's be clear about that. Now look, Cenk rambles and he pivots off topic and then they end up going into gun culture and talking about the shooting again. And honestly, that's really not all that interesting to me. What is interesting to me is the argument, or at least the undergirding argument that Anna Kasparian is making for the Second Amendment, because I think a bunch of those particulars that I was concerned about can be removed from the example, and thus it would make it a better example.
You know full well that right now there is a huge problem with what Karen Bass, the mayor of LA, has dubbed crime tourism, where people are literally coming here from other countries. Okay, they're flying here on short-term visas. They're committing crimes, including invading people's homes to rob them as they are in their homes. Okay. And what are people supposed to do if there are people coming in fully armed, ready to rob them, threatening their lives? They're not allowed to have a weapon to defend themselves in their own home. They have to have it locked away in a lockbox in some other location. That makes no sense.
Now, I want you to really think about that example that Anna gave, and I played it again so that you guys could hear it out for yourselves, and then I want you to start subtracting from that example. Subtract the fact that they were illegal migrants in that particular example, doing crime tourism, and even subtract the fact that they are armed with firearms. Somebody breaks into your home, middle of the night. You're there with your children, your wife, whatever. It doesn't matter. You live alone. Who cares? And now you are forced to a situation where you have to confront that person who broke into your home. In Cenk's worldview, that criminal who broke into your home is entitled to a karate battle, even though you didn't choose the fight. In fact, the attacker always chooses the point of attack, so they always catch you off guard. For some reason, you are not allowed to defend yourself with the most effective means of defending yourself in that particular situation. To me, that's absolutely crazy. And I know a lot of people will say Cenk Uygur is a hypocrite and he would want a gun in that particular scenario, but to be clear, somebody actually did break into Cenk Uygur's house, and he did not change his position post that encounter. And that's fine for Cenk to think that he's tough enough to fight off any criminal under any circumstances that may break into his house. I don't want him to risk himself. I don't want him to risk his family based on that misplaced notion. But the fact of the matter is, Cenk wants you to bet your life on your ability to engage in a karate battle with a criminal or criminals that break in. I don't think they're entitled to a fair fight. I don't care if you're armed, unarmed, or whatever. You break into my home where my wife lives, where I live. I want the most effective means in order to stop you. And by the way, I do not relish this type of situation where I would be forced to even kill somebody in this particular scenario. But the fact of the matter is, when you attack me, all bets are off. I want to be able to defend myself in the most effective way possible. Anna Kasparian, she has a husband, athletic guy, former athlete, and all of that. I don't want Anna and or her husband to have to fight off a criminal using their karate or judo or whatever nonsense. I want them to have the ability, I hope they're never in this scenario, but to have the ability to blow that criminal away or to even fire off a shot that scares that person away. Because again, Anna is a small woman. She's not ready to go into a karate battle with somebody who's going to break into her home in the middle of the night. And I know for a fact she is not trying to risk her husband's life. Go follow her on social media. She posts the guy all the time, clearly in love with him. over some criminal and the misguided belief from Cenk Uygur that that criminal is entitled to a fair fight. You see, that is the fundamental distinction between what Cenk Uygur believes and what Anna Kasparian believes in this particular situation, in this particular discussion. That is also the difference between what the liberal elite believes, who never worry about being victimized by criminals or anything of the sort, and the majority of people in the United States of America who do have that concern as something that they worry about and would like, in that scenario, the ability to engage the criminal in an unequal way when they again are infringing on them, when they again are initiating force against them, when they are attacking against them. And to be clear, I hope that Cenk Uygur is a hypocrite in this. I hope that he does own a firearm and he is ready to protect his family in that particular scenario, because I wouldn't want him or anybody to suffer the consequences of this belief about people who break into your home in the middle of the night, even though, again, it already happened to Cenk and he was able to deal with it in that particular scenario. But you know what? Those are just my thoughts. I want to know what you guys think down in the comments below. Do you agree with Anna Kasparian that yes, you should be able to have a firearm in your home for self-defense? Or do you agree with Cenk Uygur that you should lock your gun in a locker and when the criminal comes in, you give them a karate battle no matter what weapons they have? Again, all your thoughts down in the comments below. If you like this video, show them by leaving a like, subscribe for more content, follow me on the social media, support me via support links in the description of this video. This has been me talking about Cenk versus Anna. Till next time.